This is the Ring of Honor, a.k.a. Shane T, boy, the baddest champion you ever seen, boy.
This is Mr. Anderson.
This is good old JR Jim Ross, and you are listening.
You're listening to Knockouts and 3 Counts.
Cover! We got a new world champion!
That might be one of the craziest knockouts I've ever seen in my life.
Knockouts and 3 Counts is the podcast, baby! They're the real deal, baby!
Knockouts and 3 Counts starts now.
What up, though? Come one, come all. This is Knockouts and 3 Counts. It is another Thursday, and it's almost time for RPW and SN Wrestling present Hydra. And man, we've got quite the show for y'all. Not only do we got one return, we got 2 returns for you tonight. We got the return of the homie Chris from RPW, and a guy who I don't think has been on the show since we were still doing live shows at BCWA, which ironically was how J-Bone even ended up with the show in the first place anyway. So we appreciate you guys coming back to the show. Malcolm Monroe III, I appreciate your time, my man, and we got plenty to talk about with Hydra this weekend.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, guys.
Oh, yeah, dude. About time. We got plenty to talk about since you keep making waves. And Chris, dude, it's always a pleasure. Always appreciate coming down to the RPW shows. I won't be able to make it out to this one, but I'm pretty stoked to see what happens. This is going to be badass. But with that being said, I know for anybody who's just joining the stream here, we just had Masada on the show Thursday, and a lot of eyes were clearly watching that one because some of the matches that were talked about in that show have already been come to fruition. So with that being said, Malcolm, since it's been so long since you've been on the show, bro, the first thing we got to talk about is, you know, the last time you were on the show was when we were doing stuff with BCWA. And at that time, you were doing primarily all just straight up wrestling. So before we get into anything, my first question for you is tell me how MM3 finds his way into the death matches, man. I know you're part of the tag team with Tommy and the Pillars and all that stuff. But like I said, the last time you were on, you weren't doing death matches. And now I seem to see your name all over the place.
Well, it's all a part of the process, right? So, basically, around that time is when I first started like dipping my toes into death matches, and that was kind of like every so often that I would do those. There would be like a story in place. We would build it for a long time, and then like I'd do something a little like more hardcore than the usual, like false count anywhere or whatever stipulation. And the first one I did was with my dad in 2016, I think. That was the first time I did any like real hardcore stuff. And then I did a bunch of the regular wrestling stuff, but it really boiled down to like I am the most well-rounded wrestler in the world. There's no one on the planet that can proficiently wrestle every style of wrestling the way that I do. And I think I've done that time and time again. Like I've wrestled some of the biggest names in lucha. I've wrestled some of the biggest names in strong style. I've wrestled some of the biggest wrestlers of the American style. And then now some of the best deathmatch wrestlers to ever walk the face of the planet I've been in the ring with. And that's because in order to be known as the best hybrid that can truly do it all, you have to hang with the best of each genre. And the past 5 years I've landed in deathmatch, and I've been like humbly welcomed by the deathmatch community. And I've just found another route to express my passion for the business that I've dedicated my life to.
I like it, man. Like I said, that was something that I've been wanting to talk to you about on the show for a while, like I said, since you've seen such the change. But Chris, I mean, that's as good a question as any to start with you, since we're going to be talking a lot about this match with Aero Boy in this show. But for you, you know, getting to see him do a lot of the things he's done, not only at RPW, but elsewhere, you know, talk to me about what you see at MM3 and what makes you keep bringing him back for these shows like we got this weekend at Hydra.
You know, I can't agree. I mean, you know, he's a third generation wrestler, and experienced far beyond his years because of that. He can do every single style. In fact, when we were putting the card together, the very first thing I pitched for that card was this match, because it's something I've really wanted to see for a while. You know, it's like two very technical hybrid wrestlers going at it. That's actually why I pushed so hard to get him and Drake together as well, because I just knew that you put those two together and they would just make magic. You know, Malcolm always shows out. There's no weak link in his armor, and you know, a guy like Aero Boy is the exact same way. So we knew that, you know, that would be a perfect place to make it happen, because, you know, Aero Boy isn't that far away from Texas, as opposed to, you know, I've been wanting to do it up here, but, you know, the flight from Mexico up here is quite a bit more than just hopping them over to Houston, you know. But yeah, Malcolm's pretty much the total package. He's well-rounded beyond his years because of, you know, what the lineage he's come from and all the experience he's had, even from being young, you know.
All right, so Malcolm, one of the things you talked about that, you know, brings up another good question, dude. You got to tell me, you know, you said your first death match was against your pops. Anybody that doesn't know, you know, his pops is the DBA and all that good stuff as well. And the man, you know, most of the time is lighting his elbow on fire to light a motherfucker up. So when you jumped over into the death match side of things, did your pops have anything for you on that one? Like, hey, you know, it's cool you're doing this shit, but watch out, you know, anything like that? Or was it just full steam ahead?
Well, first it was like so when I first started training to wrestle, and when I first started wrestling like at a really young age, I was dead set that I would never ever do death matches, because I like saw my dad do them. I saw them like bleed buckets, and I was just like, dude, you know what? Fuck that. Like that's cool and all, but like nah, that's not for me. I'm way too pretty for something like that. And when as soon as I started doing death matches, like um I started to do a little at IWA Mid South, and then when first started doing them for Horror Slam back in 2019, my dad was like, "Well, one, I thought that you weren't going to do this, and two, like, um, if you're gonna do it, like, be all in, like, don't half-ass nothing." But he knows, like, I don't half-ass anything. Anything that I do with all my heart. So he was excited and also scared for me, because he knew that I would put my everything into this. And it's been a blessing, man. 5 years later, I've traveled the world doing this now. So uh it just feels more like home, man, honestly.
Did you ever see him come back with any type of injury and you're like, yeah, definitely fuck that? Or was there like a time that kind of steered you away from it?
My dad used to have like an eyebrow piercing, and now he just forever has a chunk of his eyebrow missing.
Ooh.
And like which is crazy, because like he's had way worse injuries than that. But like me, as someone who's like pierced, and like I just like, ah, fuck, bro, like that's
Yeah.
just so tough. That's what I was really like, fuck that, I'm gonna have way too many like facial accessories to be like dabbling with that. No, 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 I can't do it. But yeah, that, and like his forehead looks like fucking hamburger meat, dude. Yeah,
Gotta
yeah,
keep a
yeah.
cap on.
Abdullah the Butcher forehead.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Dude.
yeah,
That's some
man.
battle scars right there.
That's what I was thinking of when you said that, dude. And the funniest thing about it is me and your dad bullshit about this every time I see him now, because we both work at the post office. And I'm just like, man, I can only imagine the dumb shit that people say to you at work, just because the dumb shit that I've had people say to me over the years. Like, I literally got into it with a supervisor the one time and told him I was going to knock him the fuck out. And he about shit himself when he found out that I fought. So I can only imagine him being the wrestling guy, and like you said, having the forehead and all the shit. And then when they see him light a fucking elbow pad on fire, like, so what do you do when you're not at the post office?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Totally can fucking see that one. Well, dude, another thing that we got to talk about is, obviously we talked about it a little bit with you being a tag team with Tommy and the Pillars. How much did that had to do with you getting into death matches? And talk to me about you guys being a team, because you guys have been all over the place, not only in RPW. We've been seeing you do your thing over in ICW. Shout out to Danny and them. Plus, we just saw you in GCW recently. So talk to me about that. Talk to me about some of the matches y'all have been doing and how much did that have to do with deathmatch?
Man, so I actually started doing death matches before me and Tommy started traveling together. I started my first couple of death matches was like around the time that Tommy started wrestling. Tommy just took to deathmatch so well, and he's like it's not a gimmick. Like that's literally like my best friend. And I just saw how happy it was making him and the success that he had, and like I was already starting to like do my thing and try to do more death matches because that's the thing about being a hybrid wrestler. It's like you're not always going to be booked to do the same thing, which can be like a blessing and a curse. If you're trying to focus on one area of wrestling, it's a little bit harder to manage when like they've seen you do so much different shit that they don't always want to see me bleed. They sometimes want to see me fly, sometimes they just want to see me kick somebody's head off, like so. um it like kind of was a blessing and a curse in that route, but once we started traveling together more, we were just being booked for both because everyone knew that we had the capacity to entertain in both aspects of wrestling. So um and then ICW being like a predominantly deathmatch company, and that being one of the first places that we were like traveling to together. um and Yeah, the pillars were born at Horror Slam. With there was originally four of us. There's still four of us. We just kind of do our own thing. It's me and Tommy, Jason Hotch, and Jack Price. And basically, at a dark time in Michigan wrestling, us four wrestlers were the standouts that kept Michigan wrestling name afloat. And anytime anybody talked about Michigan wrestling, it was usually about one of the four of us. So thus the pillars were born, and me and Tommy just kind of ran with it as a tag. um and it kind of just like caught on, and us being our fucking lovable, goofy, violent ass selves kind of just captivated promotions of all kinds. Like you said, we were just at GCW this past weekend. um we frequent RPW, but we usually kind of do our own separate thing at RPW because uh, me and Tommy, although I love him dearly, and as the pillars were always on the same page, when there are personal things, me and Tommy tend to handle things a little bit differently. So Tommy does his thing at RPW, and I support him in every way that I can, and I do my thing at RPW. But everywhere we go, we're the pillars, regardless of if you see us together or separate.
Hell yeah, Donald chiming in, sold your ass off for Janela and Bane. Chris, here you go. Here's a chance for you to get one in there. He said we need the pillars versus the rejects match. I wouldn't be too mad about that. That'd be a good one.
Listen, everybody's been looking for it. All the four of us have collectively talked about it. We're like, it's just a matter of who's not scared of money, dude. That's what it boils down to. Because me, Tommy, John, and Reed are four of the best going. Like, there's no doubt about it. I don't give a fuck what anybody says, and we're like two of the top tag teams in the world, and for us to not have wrestled each other yet, it's a fucking crime, dude. It's a crime.
I mean, Chris, here you go. We're like I say, I've definitely heard this match thrown around a couple times. Donald's definitely mentioned it a few times in different streams and in the comments and things like that too. So I, for one,
never does ever talk about these guys.
No, just only a little bit.
I don't really think he's a fan, honestly.
No, not Donald. No way.
Yeah, no.
He messaged me like as we were going live, like, you guys are fucking late, man. What's up?
Motherfucker, I got the notification. That's why for any of you guys, make sure you hit that notification bell.
Like 9:03 is like, you're late. Can't imagine working for that guy. Holy shit.
Excuse me, Mr. Holland. I won't
Yeah,
do it
fuck,
again.
Yeah.
you're late.
Shout out Donnie, the W Pillar fan, W DMAC brand fan. Like like the Hollands are OG fans that are like so real. And every time we see them at a show, like we love to see them and we love their support, man. Shout out Donnie for real.
Oh, dude, we got
That's
all
for
the
sure.
love for him here at Knockouts and 3 Counts as well, dude. He's been done shown love for us multiple times,
dude.
like I said.
That's what he
Good
does,
dude.
man. Yeah.
Bought me
Yeah.
beer and hot dogs. I mean, what's the way to? What do they say
Yeah, he
about
gave
the
us
way to a
Jelly Roll
man's?
tickets,
the
baby.
man's
We went to
right?
Jelly
What
Roll,
the
thanks to
fuck,
Donald. What's
man?
up?
I mean,
I
I'll tell you
forgot
what.
about that. Donald really is that dude, man.
Donald-
If Donald
that
supports what
guy.
he's doing, he gets like full force
He's-
behind it. That's the great thing about Donnie, you know.
Hell
like,
yeah,
Yeah, that's for
100%.
sure.
If he likes what you do, he tries to throw a light on you. That's for sure.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
And I respect the hell out of that man because I can definitely say that I can think of a few different times with a few different shows where he's done thrown clips somewhere and somebody's seen it that wouldn't have seen it otherwise. And because of that, stuff's blown up. So definitely got all the love in the world for one Mr. Holland. We'll definitely have to have a beer at an RPW show soon. But with that being said, before we get to Aero Boy, since you brought it up, I have to ask because I was there. And this also involves another past guest of the show who also, when he was on said show, had something else to do with RPW as well. So I figure it ties in well. So, dude, you got to tell me what happened at the last ICW show, or at least your thoughts on what happened with one Atticus Kogar, bro. I was there in the second row for that shit. The shit got pretty wild over there at Horror Slam. And I'm just saying, talking about matches, whether we see them in RPW, SBN Wrestling, wherever the fuck that ends up being, I definitely wouldn't be mad at seeing that one ran back. I'm throwing that out there.
I have said it and I'll say it time and time again. Atticus does and says everything with a fucking purpose. That's one thing that I will say about him that has over the years that I've known him, that's something that never falters. Everything he does is with intention. So Atticus, when he was cutting these promos about him being the American Deathmatch champion and the hack and slash fuckers that they were sending after him and how he would only defend it against real wrestlers and like Atticus knew that I had his number because there's no fucking way anybody is out wrestling me. I don't care what anybody says. He knew that he was not going to out wrestle me in that match. He had to get his brother involved. I still came out on top. We restarted it to to do it the right way, and Atticus found a way to weasel himself to a win. Whatever. At the end of the day, he walked away champion, but in the back of his mind, he knows that his days are definitely numbered because if he ever finds himself standing across the ring from me again, the results will be totally different. They'll be the same as the first time when I actually pinned him. So, yeah.
Well, damn.
All I'm saying is you could take my money. I definitely
money.
am down with seeing that one again. J-Bone, you definitely got to come out next time. Shout out to Bravo, who I saw out there when I was at that one as well. But Chris, we got to talk about this weekend, man. We talked about a little bit earlier that we had Masada on, which we're going to talk a little bit about what he had to say about Mr. Monroe here in a second. If you didn't get to check that shit out, make sure you check that out over at ko3c.com and pick your outlet of choice. You can get it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. If you're already here, make sure you hit that damn subscribe button and the little bell so you don't miss it like Donnie Boy over here. But with that being said, dude, you got to talk to me about this show. Number one, talk to me first about working with Seven Wrestling or SBN Wrestling. I don't know if we're going with Seven or SBN Wrestling because I remember when we first started working with them, there was only a Circle 6. And now we've got like the offshoot pretty much of that. And dude, I've been seeing nothing but fucking carnage at these shows. We were talking about that with Masada on Thursday. So talk to me what made them somebody good for you guys to work with. I mean, I know you'd already done the thing with Circle 6, but this is like a different entity, I guess.
Well, I mean, Circle 6 and 7, I believe they when you say out loud, you just refer to as 7. they used to be like one brand and they kind of split because they were going to kind of do different styles. Circle Six is more focusing on like bar brawls with like music and like no ring kind of stuff. And Seven's more focused on like more of like traditional deathmatch shows with rings, that kind of thing. A lot of what Circle Six used to do. But I had worked with Mike before when we did Harpo's, and him and I have always worked well together. We've always stayed in touch. I've been able to lean on him for some few things and vice versa. We've always had a great business relationship, and something had happened where we had gotten to talking. We were taking care of something else. And then during those conversations, it came up as like, it's been a while since we've done anything. Why don't you come on down to Texas and bring me up to Chicago? And we're like, oh, fuck yeah, and that was coming up right up when like both of us were planning our year out, like kind of like what dates we were kind of going for, like I kind of always got King of the Kill in stone and like when that's going to happen, but usually I kind of get a game plan ahead of time and like what markets I'm trying to hit, get venues long ahead of time, since it makes life like a lot easier to have it booked out way ahead of time. And we were kind of both like open and setting stuff up. So normally I take January off, but the idea of going down to Texas in January with all this going on seemed like a pretty no-brainer to me. So I'm pretty excited to go on down there. But yeah, I mean, it kind of came together pretty organically. We work well together. We get along very well. We're kind of both from the same background. Like, I was a metal musician for a very long time. He worked with metal record labels and stuff. So like, we kind of have the same shorthand as people and kind of come from the same stock,
Hell yeah. Shout out to Mike. Mike, you got to hit me back when you see this. I ain't talked to that guy in a minute, but we've done quite a lot of stuff with Circle Six, and hell, just ask J-Bone. Some of them are just hanging on for dear life, ain't it? We'll talk about that story for another time.
You already know, man. Yeah, some of those shows are wild, man.
Dude,
Wow,
the show
wow.
they did here with the hybrid ladder match was dope. Definitely was a fun time with that as well. But dude, one of the things that always is cool about when we bring you on for these RPW shows was hearing your thoughts on some of the matches. But for you, what do you think is going to be like the show stealer, or maybe a match that people aren't not looking forward to, but maybe not on the top of their list? Because when you got, a Nick Gage versus Tommy Vendetta, as we've talked about, you've got MM3 and Aero Boy, you got Masada and Remington Roar. You've got a lot of good matches on there. What is sticking out to you on this card?
Like I said, the very first thing I pitched when we started talking was Aero Boy and MM3. That's one of the ones I'm very excited to have, because it's something I've been percolating and trying to get done for a while now. But I also do think that one's one of the ones that's generated a little bit more of the hype. I think if we're talking like the sleepers, like the ones that maybe people aren't talking as much about, I think Hoodfoot and Killer Cash is going to be a good one. That's a lot of man meat get thrown around in there. Those are two very big boys, very hard hitters. That they always show out really well, and that's Killer Cash is like one of the people that's very big down there. That's one of their heavy hitters, and Hoodfoot's a 2-time world heavyweight champion now for us. He's been with us for years. It has been showing out every time. So, I mean, I don't think that there's any way that that's going to be a bad match. So I think that's one of the sleeper hits. I mean, I think we all kind of know that Gage and Vendetta is going to be great. At least I feel it is. I'm excited that we got to facilitate that. I think it's something that Tommy's really wanted for a long time, and Gage is pretty excited about it. I'm really happy to finally be putting Masada and Remington Roar together. That's another. I mean, this is a night full of a lot of first timers, and it's stuff that I think makes a lot of sense on paper, and we'll see how it works out over the weekend.
Well, Malcolm, for you, dude, talk to me about that one. That was the match that a lot of us were talking about. Going into it, that you're going to see a Nick Gage and Tommy go at it. I mean, I've gotten to kick it with Gage a few times. Shout out to Cassidy at Body Slam. We were in Chicago. Shout out to Chicago Rob.
Chicago Rob.
That's my guy, dude. That's
Yeah.
my guy, dude. Me and Rob almost beat the living shit out of some guy in LA with fucking the Santana Jackson, dude. That's a story for another time. But with that being said, dude, what do you think of this match with Tommy and Nick Gage, bro?
Dude, Tommy, for me is very much always so the lovable part. But as of late, RPW has gotten a lot more of the psychopath part. He lost the Rust Belt and haven't been the same since, honestly. Like, um, he's been taking a lot of shit really personally, like, uh and at a certain point, his anger and how crazy he gets takes precedent over winning the match. And sometimes it can be detrimental to him, but sometimes that fire is what leads him to the promised land. And he's fucking wrestling the king, dude. Like, so Tommy has proven a lot already, having the Rust Belt for as long as he did, and being the OG King of the Kill. Like, uh, sky's the limit for the Pillars, and this match only further showcases what we've been saying all along. So I'm really excited to see what Tommy does with it, and always pumped to see Nick Gage in the ring. So
This match is going to be a killer, and it's only for the Pillars. Let's get it. I mean, Corey, you were around for the last Circle 6 show. You've gotten to see Gage a couple times at GCW and all that stuff, and obviously have seen Tommy plenty. What do you think we're going to see this weekend down in Houston with that one, huh?
I mean, obviously, from the MMA side, I haven't been tuned into what's been going on recently with them boys or nothing like that. But that being said, from what I have seen of them, both of them go throw down. I mean, Gage, like you guys were saying, kind of a legend of the game of death matches, really kind of, like you say, always brings it, always game, really shows up every time that he's out there.
Is always fun.
Yeah. And then you got Tommy, like that up and comer that everybody seems to be talking about. I mean, I know he's kind of local to our area and stuff, but it seems like every time we're doing a deathmatch themed show or something about deathmatch gets brought up, his name gets brought up. So to have the two go together, I mean, what more could you ask for a deathmatch?
I'll tell you one thing though. Nick Gage may be the king, but he's fucking with a very game Tommy Vendetta, and I don't think it's gonna be pretty. I don't think it's gonna be pretty for Nick Gage, man. Not saying he's got no chance or anything, but this is a very, very different Tommy Vendetta than we've seen in recent years. A very game, a very advanced version of Tommy Vendetta, a very, very pissed off Tommy Vendetta, and I think Nick Gage may be in trouble.
I said he needs to bring out D-Max hockey stick. I'm just going to put that out.
The explosive hockey stick?
Yes, we need the explosive fucking hockey stick. I think Darren would have no problem letting.
Yeah, I was about to say, how are you going to squeeze that on a plane, man?
Fucking A.
As long as nobody touches it,
they
it's
sell
fine.
fireworks in Texas, right?
So that's why Khabib got kicked off the Frontier plane. Son of a bitch. Now we know why he got kicked off the Frontier plane. He had the explosive hockey stick. That's why the fuck we can't have that one. Son of a bitch. But with that being said, now we got to talk about your match at Hydra, man. Talk to me about facing a guy like Aero Boy. And I personally really like this matchup for the simple fact of, we talked about it with Masada. He said verbatim, like he said, that he wanted to fight Tommy, but your name was another one that came up as well, because he said that the one thing that he likes out of death matches is people that can actually wrestle, along with their death matches. It's not just nasty spot after nasty spot after nasty spot, guys that can actually get after it and wrestle a bit. And he said that your match with Aero Boy was one of the ones that he was looking forward to seeing what happened, and that you were somebody that he wanted to mix it up with. So talk to me about this match and how is it different from other death matches?
Honestly, I approach every match differently. Like I'm a student of the game and I study everything and I study all of my opponents. Aero Boy is somebody that I've always been familiar with. I did a Circle 6 show that he was on. I watched his entire match. Um, he's crazy and he's really good at what he does. I know it's going to be a game of speed. Uh, you're not going to want to blink during this one. I know that's for sure. Uh, uh, I I'm just hoping that just all the different styles that I have to offer, if I can throw them in different sorts of combinations at him to try to confuse him and get him off his game, I think I'll be able to come out on top. But I know it's going to be a win for the fans either way.
Well, I know that your opponent saw the promo for this. So, I mean, if you got any any words for your opponent, feel free to throw them out. We're not above talking shit on this podcast.
Listen, I don't talk too much shit anymore, man. I just speak the truth. And
I mean,
I like Aero Boy, like he's good. Like he's really good, but like just like Tommy kicked it in another gear, like that's been a brand wide chain. It's not just Tommy kicking it into another gear. Like I'm kicking it into a gear that you guys have never seen me in. Like 2025, MM3 in deathmatch is going to be something totally different than you've seen in the past few years. So I got a lot to prove going into this year. And I got a lot of big match announcements and a lot of big hype following that Drake match. A lot of people saying that they want to fight me after they seen that. And yeah, man, I'm just in my bag. So regardless of whatever Aero Boy got to throw at me, like I'm coming 10 times harder than that shit. So
that's a hell of a statement if that's the best death match you've seen, because I know just from watching what you post on Facebook, dude, you are like nuts deep in death match. So I'm just saying. So that's pretty high praise and a high compliment. Well, speaking of people that saw you do things and because of these matches wanted to see you fight, we got to talk about Thursday's guest, Masada. But before we do that, I got to give a shout out to Omacorp, who has put together the new website for Knockouts and 3 Counts. As you can see, it's got different pictures, all the different events and all those things that we're at. Plus these fine follow us things, which will take you right to our YouTube, Spotify, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok for the next 3 days until they shut it down, and Apple Podcasts and all the rest of them. So shout out to Omacorp, shout out to our guy Orist. And anytime you guys miss an episode, you can check it out, whether you want to listen or watch. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and share that motherfucker with your friends, man. We need to get some people watching these shows.
Man, but make us look good. Look at that J-Bone motherfucker right there. That dude,
yeah, you know,
boy. Hell yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Hey man, fucking, we're trying out here, trying not to look like the kids that are doing it at the kitchen table like 8 years ago. Huh?
Well, we got to talk about this real quick while we got Chris here, because this has been a lingering thing since December of 2023, man.
Oh, you mean the tequila shoey that you've never taken yet?
Oh,
wait a minute! I've been waiting for that. Wait a minute! I've been waiting.
I can't even.
Joel Bateman's still waiting, but
we got shit that the fans been asking for over a year.
Right, your shoey.
You just cut me off. This shit I got to deal with.
I mean, we've been waiting for over a year for the shoey.
I know. What the fuck?
Let's get the shoey going. Somebody fly me to Australia, Kyle.
Bullshit. You had a chance when he was here for the circus, and then again in Horror Slam.
Things that matter. Everybody that brings up your name.
Yet you kept filling your grandpa bladder every 5 seconds when we were in Vegas, but you can't do your tequila shoey.
We need a return of the No Ring Skate Park show.
Fuck yes, we do.
They will stop talking about it, dude. This is like,
dude. I told Masada about it, and he was like mind blown that was like a fucking thing. Like we ain't like talked about this on the show, And he was like, wait, so like in an actual skate park? I said, yeah. And then in between it, we had a band beating the shit out of each other at the top of the skate park too. It was, I told him, I said, it was the time to be had. And then Otis Kogar's like elbow meat was like hanging down like pastrami and shit. It was
he got fucked up at that one.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, it was a hell of a fucking night, and he was like mind blown. So I'm just saying, I think Masada might be down if you do another skate.
That show has been lingering over this podcast since we went and posted anything. Like, it is probably the most talked about topic on the show.
I can confirm that there are things in the works. It is not a skate park, but there are things in the works. There are gears in motion.
Let's go. That's what I'm talking about. That was
like
something.
Definitely one of the most gnarly fucking things.
I don't think anybody even knew what was like what we were getting into until we walked in and seemed like something
I think
happened.
people were really puzzled by the concept, like going into it. Like I think a lot of people thought it was just going to be like a ramp bowl with like a ring in the middle. Like I think a lot of people didn't understand that they could use that we were utilizing the entire skate park and like we were going to use everything, be flying off of stuff. Top of ramps, bottoms of ramps, bowls, all kinds of shit. And yes, it is something that we are definitely working on. A little bit bigger venue this time because we think that with the popularity of the last one, more people will show up. I think a lot of like with it being December and a lot of people not knowing exactly what we were doing with it. So, like some people were a little apprehensive to show up. And I think now that everyone knows what it is, I think it'll be a lot more popular. But yes, it's coming back.
Yeah, boy.
That too is in the future.
That shit was sick. I mean, as somebody who doesn't regularly attend wrestling events, as somebody who doesn't regularly, I talk about it here on the show and stuff, but as an MMA fan, as somebody who got drug out to a wrestling, that was one of the best events. I've been to probably 10 or so different wrestling events now. That was by far my favorite. Of course, it helps that it was at my childhood skate park that I grew up skating at. But even if it wasn't for that aspect of it, if it was just like purely for shits and gigs, it was that was great.
There's just so many different spots in that like 4 hours we were there that would just like stick out. Like when we were leaving, they were giving away pizza, right? So I go get a pizza and. Right to my right, there's one of the guys from the band just bleeding his ass off. No big deal. Eating a slice of pizza. There's blood at my feet. There was a point in time where me and Corey standing there watching the match. There's a steel chair sitting at our feet, just full of blood. No big deal. This is completely normal. Like you said, though, I don't think we didn't know what we were getting into. Because that's kind of what I expected. I see no ring show. I'm thinking, all right, they're going to fight in one of the bowls. And when it started coming our way, and then we followed.
Well, there you see it in the comments. Lisa says she thinks it was super innovative how everything was used. And Donald's over here stirring shit up. I mean, I'm not mad at it because, like I said, after the way that ICW show ended, I'm okay with it. But he said, what happened to that 440 feud? He said it left him wanting an ending.
I mean, you got an ending. It may not have been what we had planned and in the books. It did have to get changed very last minute. Something came up with RSP where he wasn't able to do it. There was something much more elaborate planned, but unfortunately that wasn't able to happen. Maybe further down the line, but I mean, it did have an ending, Don.
You're gonna break his heart, bro.
Yeah, they laid down their colors, man.
I mean, it's in this business, like you can't really just rely on the things that you've been playing long hands on to always like work out the way you totally envisioned. I mean, you got so many people's lives involved and so many people have different things going on. And, every once in a while, certain things happen. And, something happened, less than a week out from show date, so we had to collectively get together and kind of rework what we were going to do. But I mean, I was happy with how it went. It seemed like the crowd was really into it, but it may not have been the grand finale we had originally pictured. But, we tried our best to at least deliver something that was satisfying, was a good blow off for you guys.
Hey, I enjoyed it. I just, I'm the dummy that presses the buttons with the questions. But, speaking of questions, dude, we had questions, that were raised on that show with Masada. So I got to ask, man, Malcolm, he said that he thinks that a match with you would be something that's interesting, especially once I kind of put him up on game of your wrestling prowess prior to doing the deathmatch stuff. So with that being said, what are your thoughts on said match against a guy like Masada?
Masada's a legend, man, and like there's literally an entire generation of deathmatch wrestlers who modeled themselves after Masada. Look at Atticus. He wrestled Masada, and in that match they exchanged crazy blows and crazy skewers, and um that's all we want is respect from those that came before us, like the OGs and innovators of this style, to like look at us and see what we're doing and be like, yeah, like deathmatch wrestling is okay. The future of deathmatch is like very bright. So um wrestling someone like Masada, like just like wrestling Drake. Drake was someone that I grew up watching. He used to wrestle for my dad, and I seen him wrestle on countless other shows when I was younger, and like I was someone that always like killed it and always like gave 100%. And for him to still be out here killing it and wanting to wrestle guys like me and Akira and Tommy and uh just kind of like that passing of the torch. And I think it'd be a really cool um series of moments if I could get in there and mix it up with Masada and show him like I'm not what everybody paints me to be. I can mix it up. I can roll around, I can strike with the best, and I can bleed with the best.
I don't know. I know motherfuckers be watching. That's a matchup that I would like to see in my 2025 Rolodex. Well, speaking of 2025 Rolodexes, Chris, what is in the Rolodex for RPW 2025? What's on the hit list? What's on the agenda?
So after we get done this weekend in Texas, February 8th, we will be at La Pica in Milwaukee with We Love Wrestling. After that, I gotta look the date up. I don't remember off the top of my head, but we are back with 7 in Chicago at the Berwyn Eagles for a co-show. And then after that, we'll be announcing, hopefully the next day or so, our Mania show. We'll be out in Vegas for Mania. So that's tentatively what we have coming up.
If we don't have a drink at the Nerd Bar, I'm going to kick you in the dick.
We do what now?
If we don't have a drink in Vegas at the Nerd Bar or somewheres, we gotta make this happen. Because
I'm going to bring a shoe and some tequila.
Oh, yeah, well, it's a good thing J-Bone's not coming because we know he ain't drinking it. He'd be too busy trying to run.
This damn shit.
You're never going to escape it because you didn't pay up on your end of the bet. See, that's the great and beautiful thing with us being on video and audio. See, then when you fucking said it, not only is it on video so they can see it come out of your lips, it can also be seen and heard on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So yeah, whether he makes it happen, Joel Bateman makes it happen, or
there's gonna be a point where you guys,
or if I gotta send IRS to your fucking house,
there's gonna be a video of me just being held down and somebody just pouring a shoe of tequila in my face.
You said you'd do it.
You were all gung ho about this bet.
I love tequila, bro. I'll do it. You've
had like a year and a half, bro.
I'll be fine. Kyle's driving.
And now we're on a bigger platform. Shout out to the homies at Body Slam, or if you're watching on Millions, there's 260 people that are hearing you say that you would do a tequila shoey right now.
260 people listen to me saying I'm gonna fucking whoop your ass one day. You keep putting me in this position.
Anytime you think you're ready, I'm gonna have to sneak him Tyson versus Paul. Me versus J-Bone will have 1 million subscribers by tomorrow. Fuck
I'm gonna have to
that's
sneak
what
him.
I'm talking
if he gets
about.
a hold of me, he's gonna fucking do his jujitsu shit. I'm fucked. So I gotta sneak on him.
See? Fuck around and find out.
I know what's
I'm
up.
saying.
Look, I know where I gotta pick my points at. I gotta sneak.
I'm not above a good
I'm
dick
so
kick
glad
as well.
years ago I made it very clear that I was never drinking nothing out of a shoe. I'm so glad I just made that.
Don't even get me involved.
You were the one that like half-assed, like antagonized the bet. What the fuck are you talking about?
That's because he didn't have to do it.
He wasn't gonna
Yeah, you pussy. There's video proof that I paid up on mine, and I mean, it's not my fault that you have a grandpa bladder and can't go 5 minutes without having to get rid of your alcohol. It's not my fault.
I don't know what's going on. It's like 2 drinks, and I'm like pissing it out. I might as well just.
Dude, when we went to Vegas, when we were walking down Fremont Street, bro, we stopped for Spandex Nation, and then like stopped at shout out to Johnny, the homies at the Nerd Bar. Dude, we had a few drinks there. Dude, this guy probably pissed 15 times in the time it took us to get from one end of Fremont Street to the
dude,
other.
I was like, was a 64-ounce margarita or some shit. I'm like,
well, when you drink it in 2 minutes, motherfucker, that it tends to do that.
That's all.
It's gotta happen.
All right. Well, we've asked about the goals for 2025 for RPW. MM3, what is the hit list? What is the goals for 2025? What are the things that you need to get done?
Man, bigger matches, more countries, just knocking some of these really cool matchups off and just continuing to prove
Put them out in the ether. Who do you want?
Who do I want? Oh man. It's so weird for me because like I don't like someone just asked me this the other day. They were like, "Oh, who do you want to wrestle next?" And I'm just like, anybody? I don't know. We're going to England in March, and I know there's a couple cool matchups there. So Danny Darko and Clint Margera are 2 people that are definitely on my list from that region. Also, Drew Parker. I just wrestled him in a 6-man for GCW, but I think a singles match with Drew Parker would be sick. Obviously, I really want that match with Masada. Man. I want a singles match with Nick Gage. I wrestled Nick Gage in a 6-man a few years ago, which was cool. But I think a singles match with him would be awesome. I wanna fight the Bev again, man. Bobby Beverly. Every time I fight him, I feel like I elevate my game. He's just someone who's just a fucking dog. So, more matches with the Bev, and Tank. I want to wrestle Tank.
Interesting one. That wasn't a name I thought on there, but I definitely am down to see you and the Bev again. Shout out to the Bev. We just saw him again recently, past guest of the show. I don't know, man. I'm with it. I want to see all the good fights in 2025. And speaking of good fights, shout out to the homies over at Legends of Combat. You can catch me on commentary February 1st alongside Corey for Chase Kubler making his way back into the cage main event against UFC vet Colin Anglin. That's going down February 1st. February 8th, we'll be in Cadillac, Michigan for Two Piece Promotions. Make sure you check them out as well. February 22nd, if you like to see motherfuckers bleed, because I found out quickly and in a hurry. And if you're watching for death matches, I would assume that that's probably a good chance. Come check out Mitten Muay Thai, because I ended up getting blood on the outside and the inside of my glasses and my suit at the commentary table at the last one. And I can tell you for a fact, after speaking to Phil, Mason Schlahe's going to be on there again. So if you saw that fight, that's going to be a banger. Reese Kelly, past guest of the show, is back on there. And then Manib Al-Samni is coming back on there. I can't wait to see this shit. He's going to fuck somebody up, and he says there's going to be blood. So, you know, I tend to think that it's going to make for a good night for me. But speaking of the combat sports, MM3, man, are you keeping up with this UFC, MMA, boxing, any of that at all?
Man, I tried to for the longest time, and then Mike Tyson lost and it broke my heart. and I felt like it's just time for me to just lock in on wrestling, dude. Like, it's I do like watch and follow some of the different styles of combat sports, because like as we talked about before, my striking background, it ain't a pretend one that came from wrestling. So I like to I like to just brush up on my technique and just see all the stuff that everybody's doing out there in the world of MMA and Muay Thai and Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, and trying to tie that into my game. But for the most part, man, I'm strictly wrestling. Like I don't even really watch basketball or football or anything. I'm just too busy
You
watching.
got to be watching the Lions right now, man. What the fuck?
I
Just
can't.
kidding.
I can't. The Lions usually are playing when I'm wrestling somewhere or when I'm like watching my next opponent wrestle somewhere, and I'm studying. And it's a full-time gig.
I'm just saying, we got fights
Lions are
in
a prime
football
time
this
team now,
weekend,
so
and
all
we've
night.
got Hydra going down this weekend, and TNA. You got all the wrestling, fighting, and sports you could want in all one
Yeah.
place. Chris, for anybody that's still on the fence, let them know where they can check out Hydra. And I don't know if there's any tickets available, but let them know.
Yeah, there's still tickets available online. Check either our socials or Seven socials. It will be streaming live on Soul Streaming. The replay will be added to our library on IWTV shortly after that. But if you want to see it live and not have anything spoiled, we do suggest you go over to Soul Streaming and watch it live there. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a night of chaos. I mean, there's no slouch matches on the card. It's a lean card, seven deadly matches. We got a lot of gimmicks going into this thing. The return of Nick Gage, or the debut of Nick Gage at 7 and RPW. So we're all very excited about that. Yeah, it's gonna be a great fucking time.
Damn right. I wish I could go to Texas. I am not gonna be in Texas, but I'm gonna be watching some football, gonna be watching some fights, and trying not to go postal in the meantime. So MM3, sir, before we get out of here, the floor is yours. Let them know where they can catch you, anything you want to plug, and where they can keep up with you.
Man, you can catch me on all socials at The Process MM3. You'll find me this weekend in Houston, Texas at 7 RPW Wrestling Aero Boy, obviously. The following week, Horror Slam has rescheduled their show that was supposed to be the day before 7 to the week after. So January 25th is the date. I'll be at Horror Slam in Lincoln Park. What else I got
February
coming
8th,
up, man?
Milwaukee.
Yeah, February 8th, Milwaukee
Look
for
at Chris.
RPW and We Love Wrestling. You will catch both of the pillars there. We also have more ICW stuff all the time. More dates being announced regularly. We got the England tour coming up in March, and then ICW just announced Japan in June. So a lot of big stuff coming up.
Death matches in Japan. We had a lot of those things and stories about Masada and Necro drinking in Japan and a lot of other things on Thursday. So we get down with Japan over there. I'm not gonna lie, I'm jealous you're going back to England because I was supposed to go over there to fight one time, and then it didn't end up happening. So that's one of those things that's kind of on my bucket list. I got to get over to England at some point. But I can confirm here that it's a lot of times it's fight week. On this show, it tends to be that way. Shout out to Austin Bashy, who made his UFC debut last weekend, and fellow past guest of the show, Jamal Hill, who's fighting in the UFC this weekend. But this Tuesday, you got to make sure you hit that subscribe button because Clarissa Shields is getting ready to step back in the ring here in Flint, Michigan. But this Tuesday, her protege, somebody that she is managing, somebody that is one of the hot prospects on the female scene, Sammy the Heat Worthington, will be joining the show to talk about her fight on DAZN pay-per-view that's going down here February 2nd in Flint. We will be in the building. Make sure you hit that button so you don't miss any of the action. We're going to be interviewing Clarissa and her opponent before this fight, so make sure you hit the button. Don't miss what we got coming at you. Hopefully it won't be me getting knocked the fuck out. Peace.